Hello, I'm Mike Egan. You are watching my 2021 Game of the Year countdown, outlining my top 10 video games of the year. Every year for the past couple of years, regardless of whatever else I've been working on, I've always written up a Game of the Year list that I've posted on my blog, and I'm still going to be doing that this year, but I also want to do something a little bit extra, a video series in several parts counting down my top 10 games of the year released in the lead up to the holidays, and that's what you're watching right now. So, without further ado, number 3 is Eastward. I remember seeing screenshots of Eastward on Tumblr as early as 2015. Images of decaying, intricately detailed cities rendered in some of the most gorgeous pixel art I'd ever seen. Game development takes a long time though, and so in the intervening years, I forgot about it. Every once in a few years, some new images or maybe eventually a trailer would pop up, reminding me that, oh yeah, I'm still waiting for this game. Until suddenly, like a firecracker in the night, like forgetting your own birthday, suddenly it's there. Suddenly, I was able to slip into that world that I'd first glimpsed 6 years ago. Time spent waiting for something can build up a lot of hype, which can lead to disappointment. I've experienced this many times with many different games. But of course, you know that's not where we're going here, because we've reached the number 3 slot in my top 10 games of 2021, and we're talking about Eastward. Let's start at the start. This game is gorgeous. I haven't seen a pixel art world crafted this lovingly possibly ever. Paired together with some beautiful, subtle lighting effects, every new space you enter is completely transportive. Forests are lush with bushes rustling, cities feel smoggy and alive with bustle. The only things better than Eastward's exterior environments are its interior environments. Dank mines are dimly lit by hanging lanterns, item shops glow brightly fluorescent, and at dusk, the sunset gleams through the window of an apartment living room such that I can't look away. It's a feeling that hasn't left me at any point while playing Eastward, that this world is inviting and warm and cozy. It's the kind of video game world that makes you want to take your shoes off and stay a while. And while I had been primed to take in some stunning visuals when I first glimpsed Eastward back in 2015, I was woefully unprepared for its music. I won't mince words. Eastward's soundtrack, composed by Joel Korolitz, is quite simply some of the best music I have ever heard in a video game. When you find out what my number 2 pick is, that's really gonna mean something. It would be unfair to describe the soundtrack as simply harkening back to your favorite action-adventure RPGs of yore, although any game playing in the pixel art and chiptune music space must lean on nostalgia in some capacity. To be asked to write music to pair with Eastward's sumptuous pixel art world is to be given an impossible task. It's something I hadn't given a second thought in the lead up to this game's release, and something that, looking back, had I given it a second thought, I wouldn't have been able to fathom. For Korolitz to have delivered not only an album of exceptionally atmospheric, immersive, and grounding electronic chiptune music, but a soundtrack which blends so perfectly with its partner visuals as to be easily mistaken for a twin born of the same womb, is, in a word, virtuosic. Maybe that's just hindsight talking, but it's really good music. One of the areas in which I've actually managed to take umbrage with Eastward is its writing. A lot of people have criticized the game for being paced a little more slowly than they expected, but personally, I never felt that at all. However, Eastward is very clearly trying to imitate the SNES classic Earthbound in its writing, and that's a tough act to follow. I recognize that it's hard to write a game that's charmingly funny, and harder still to take a swing at the king, so to speak. Eastward isn't nearly as weird as Earthbound, at least not weird in the same ways, not what I've played of it so far, but I can feel it trying to meet Earthbound's style of humor in its writing in certain places. A lot of the time this manifests as what I suppose you would call adult humor, and this ends up just feeling kind of awkward and out of place. Luckily, the writing seems to more or less even out as the game progresses, and upon reaching the 3rd major area, just past a very poorly written and mercifully short chapter spent in a village called Greenberg with a woman named Uva, it seems to have finally found its footing. Apart from these few nitpicks, though, Eastward spends the majority of its time and words trying to be its own game, and is much better off for it. When it isn't wasting time trying harder than it ought to, Eastward has a pretty neat story and truly endearing characters. You play as both a man named John and a little girl named Sam. According to the game's intro cinematic, John found Sam floating in a tube in some abandoned laboratory somewhere, freed her, and took on the role of a kind of father figure. John is your typical silent video game protagonist, never saying a word on screen. Sam is energetic and mischievous and fun-loving and easily distracted and probably the best written kid I've seen in a game in a while. The two of them live in an underground mining town until Sam starts having dreams about the surface world. It's clear from the outset that not everything is as it seems with Sam, what with the abandoned laboratory and all, but that has yet to be fully reckoned with in my playthrough. That story's on more of a background simmer. From there, it becomes the story of a growing group of adventurers riding the rails and trying to outrun a dark cloud of death referred to as the miasma, which is understood to have more or less ended the world some time ago. In practice, you mostly control John in cities and other peaceful areas, with Sam following along in tow. In the game's dungeons and other enemy-filled environs, you can choose to play as either the frying pan-wielding John to engage in melee and other forms of traditional combat, or click a button to switch over to Sam and use her latent magical abilities to freeze enemies in place and clear certain obstacles. Every so often, a dungeon will split the two along separate paths, with Sam clearing the way for John and John clearing the way for Sam as you shuffle them both along toward a common goal. It's a fun idea that mostly works out, though some of the combat is a touch clunky, which can result in some frustration. Most of the time, though, the game is so beautiful, its music so entrancing, and its animations, both the enemies and your own, are so fluid and fun to watch, I simply do not see the clunk. Eastward is a game that I've been waiting for a while, and that I never saw coming. Despite the few issues that I've had with its writing, it presents a truly fun and seemingly quite beefy story about characters that I've come to love. It manages to successfully blend a cozy, beautifully lit world with a real feeling of dread that everything you're currently enjoying could be wiped out at any second. I've made wallpapers of its art, I've thrown on its soundtrack while cooking dinner. Oh, also, there's an entire mini JRPG styled after Dragon Quest called Earthborn inside the game. All the kids in all the towns that you visit rave about it, and you can actually play it yourself wherever you find a CRT television with a little console perched atop it. So that's wild. I still haven't finished Eastward. If I had to guess, I'd say I'm maybe a fourth of the way through. If this is the way I feel about it after what is essentially an extended first impression, I can't wait to see the impression it leaves me with when it's over. In more ways than one, Eastward was worth the wait. Alright, thank you so much for watching. As always, thank you for continuing to watch my 2021 Game of the Year countdown. Stay tuned tomorrow, number 2. We're getting there. This thing is ending. Leave your guesses in the comments below, and I'll see you there.